What in the 20s is going
In the
on?
20s,
Think about
yeah.
the
The
20s.
20s,
What
baby.
in the 20s?
Plenty.
What in the 20s is
I
going
am
on?
here for my 20s, baby.
This is the 20s.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Zama Mkize, and this is What's in the 20s, a podcast where you listen to me grow through its baby. On today's episode, we're going to be speaking about your quiet era. This is something that I've had to learn more and more growing up because I am such a open person. I'm such a sometimes I feel like I'm an open book. You know, I'm very transparent. I'm very loud about what I'm thinking, what I'm dreaming, what I'm planning, what I'm desiring for myself, what I'm wanting. I feel like I get so excited. I want to include people in the excitement. I feel like sometimes I just have no bounds. I'm just like, oh my gosh, something I want to do, what's part of my top 10 dreams, what's, my ambitions, my this and that. Like I just get so just welcoming of everybody, thinking they're just going to be so receptive to whatever I'm thinking, whatever I'm wanting, whatever I'm dreaming, whatever I'm desiring. Like I just feel like, oh, let's talk about it. It's not that difficult for me to be vulnerable with people about like what's in my head. I think I love the idea of sharing and all the rest. But there's this thing that happens the older you get and stuff where you're realizing that it's actually poor self-management to constantly give anyone and everyone access to things that you are trying to grow, things that you're trying to keep sacred, things that you're trying to keep private and all the rest. And I think sometimes it can get very difficult to do in the time we're living in, right? This digital age where we feel so compelled to share our lives with people, our experiences with people. Like we can get a meal and be like, oh my God, this food looks so good. Let me post it, let me show it, let me share with everybody what I'm eating, where I'm eating at, who I'm eating with. I love this new home that I'm building. I love this relationship that I'm in. I love this job that I have and all of that kind of stuff. And it just feels so exciting to let other people in on it, to see it, to view it, to comment on it, to validate it, right? To let you know how good you look, how you are their goals, how you are their dream, how you are what they're working towards, how what you have is something that they desire, right? It feels like confirmation or validation that like what you have or what you're doing or the way that you are or the way that you look is like approved by society. It feels like a big tick, like, oh, access, like like look where I'm at, look who I'm with, look what I'm doing. And I get it. Sometimes it feels really nice also let your friends and family know, to just keep them up on your life, updated, all of that kind of stuff. But sometimes it can get so tricky, right? When it comes to things that haven't come to fruition yet, right? Things that haven't come to pass yet. It can also be quite dangerous, constantly giving an update on step to step to step what's going on in your life, what's going on in your world, what's happening and stuff like that. Especially with a lot of things that genuinely are meant to be kept private. And I think sometimes we blur the lines where we don't really understand what needs to be private anymore. It feels like we don't really know what are the boundaries, what are the guidelines in terms of like what parts of your life should be kept sacred, what parts of your life should be protected and all of that kind of stuff. Excuse my voice. But yeah, I think that when we open ourselves up to everyone, right? We make our plans vulnerable to people's projections of what they think about what we're trying to do or what we have and stuff like that, to what they would do if they were in our position. What we do is we make it so vulnerable that sometimes we feel like we need to stand up for ourselves and tell people like, oh no, like why are you saying too much, or unsolicited advice and all of that kind of stuff. But that's what you do when you welcome people into your plans, into what you're doing and stuff. You welcome yourself up to scrutiny and to be ostracized and to get the opinions of others and to hear what other people really think about what you're trying to venture into. And I think that can be so dangerous and frustrating, right? Because there was only so much you were like willing to like, chat about. And then you start to feel like you're losing that control a bit, a sense of like, what's going on? And I think when I speak about the reason we should be more inclined to move in silence about certain things is because of the importance of protecting your energy. You know, everybody's carrying energy, whether it's positive energy, negative energy, weird energy, just an energy of like concern or whatever it is. Everybody's got something that they're just walking around with. And once you expose yourself to that, they begin to share that with you. Energy cannot be destroyed, only transferred, right? And I think sometimes it will be energy that you weren't necessarily anticipating would happen. Sometimes you're expecting a response that's just like so like astounding, like welcoming, that's so like, yes, we're in support of you and all the rest. And yet you're met with a response that is counter to that, right? A response that's kind of like, oh, are you sure that this is what you want to do? Oh, are you sure that this is the path you want to take? Sometimes, like I said, it'll be coming from a place of concern or whatever it is, but the way that you receive it is that this person actually, isn't trying to see me see this vision through. You know what I'm saying? I think that they're all these different, like, spiritually even, like there's something that you're welcoming into your space that you might not necessarily have been aware of, in the sense of knowing how to safeguard and protect yourself, from it, because you're just now letting anyone and everybody just give them that access to this vision that was given to you, this plan that was given to you, this relationship that was given to you. Now other people have something to say about your relationship. Now other other people get to decide, whether or not the relationship you're in is a good one or not, if it's the bare minimum or not, if you should be seeking for something different and all the rest. Now, other people have access to say whatever they want to say, about your friendship, even, when people just start whispering certain things, type of a situation, they just start sharing with you, like, oh, I just kind of think that was weird when they did that. And you never thought about it as weird, but now you're just thinking like, oh, was that weird? And now you're just questioning everything. You're just sitting there contemplating, just wondering like, when did everything start turning so bad? Sometimes we welcome the wrong people into our lives, into our spaces, and they just have a way of derailing everything that we had set forth for ourselves, the visions we had set forth for ourselves, the goals we have set forth for ourselves. They now begin to shift it a bit. You keep bringing them along into certain spaces where they weren't meant to travel with you, type of a situation, right? But like, you just keep welcoming, like, no, come through, come enjoy this experience with me, come through, come learn about this with me, come this and da 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 da. This is what I'm trying to do. And you're just speaking and speaking. There's no sense of self-control over what you're even speaking about, and you leave things that are important to you so vulnerable to attack, so vulnerable to be destroyed, so vulnerable to be distracted, so vulnerable to be derailed. You know what I'm saying? Because now everybody has got an idea. Some people will even steal your ideas, right? And jump to the finish line before you, type of a situation. Some people are just listening in, trying to think how they can just knock you off course, how to make sure that you don't get to where it is you're trying to get to, when you want to, how you want to, with who you want to. And it's so sad because you don't think of it like that. You don't think that there's people genuinely sitting there thinking like, how can I knock this person off their race? Take them off the path they're on, the vision that they've been set for, the journey that they're, embarking on. You don't think there are people out there sitting there thinking like, oh, this person, like, how can we just take them far away from, because I think it's like, you don't realize that other people also want what you have. There are people out there, who are seeking and in pursuit of what you have, and they don't necessarily have the best intentions for you. And trying to figure out who that is and isn't can be another, conversation on its own, right? And I think sometimes when you just kind of, at school, they like to speak about having verbal diarrhea, right? Where you just kind of constantly just talk and talk and talk. I think it shows also a poor way of like managing or regulating yourself, because you're constantly just seeking for another person to affirm what it is you're talking about, to be a co-conspirator in what you're talking about, to kind of be connected with you in what you're talking about. And that's not always the case in life. Sometimes our journeys and our thoughts and our opinions and our plans really are just for us to experience on our own. And I think that if you're unable to protect your ideas, if you're unable to protect your ambitions and stuff like that, you leave yourself in a very fragile state, right? Because now anything and everything can happen to you, type of a situation. You leave yourself in a state where you're just, when somebody is just it's easy to penetrate in that direction and knock you off course, type of a situation, because you're just, everybody knows your plans. Everybody knows what you're doing. You become predictable. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people, the reason why they don't end up reaching their goals, reaching their destination, sometimes genuinely is because they spoke too much too soon to the wrong people. And I think that the problem with being so loud all the time, all the time, is that you think that people are rooting for you when they're actually just keeping score, when they're actually just keeping tabs, when they're actually just trying to compare, where you at, where they're just tallying it up. I mean, I've been in situations like that personally also, where I'm thinking that, people are supporting me, championing and whatever it is, but certain individuals are actually just trying to track where you're at in response to where they're trying to be, or where they expect me to be or want me to be. Where sometimes when good things were happening to me, it almost came as like a shock, like what, and you can tell when people are genuinely happy for you. You can tell when people are giving like a backhanded compliment or support or whatever it is, like, oh, you did that? Oh, you landed that? Oh, this is what, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, wow, you actually, you know what I'm saying? And it's such a bizarre thing, because then you start realizing, like, oh, maybe this person really didn't have that confidence in me that I could do it, that I would do it. And you start thinking, like, how far are they willing to go to plot against you, type of a situation. And it might not even be that they do it in action, but they do it in thoughts. They do it in the way that they show up. They do it, you know what I'm saying? There's certain things that they do that it shows that they're not really believing in you the way that you thought they were. And you're out there just like sharing what's going on, sharing what's happening, all your obstacles, the everything that you're struggling through and stuff like that. And there are people who are actually making it worse. They're actually making your troubles and your struggles that much worse. They're not providing like solutions to help you get out. They're not giving you the confidence. Sometimes there'll be people, you'll say something like, oh, I'm feeling a bit, off today or whatever. And they actually just go, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't do it. Exactly. Maybe what you're pursuing is just too much for you. Let it go. And they're so confident and happy to let you just drop this. Sometimes you'll be sharing maybe some struggles that you're facing in your relationship, your romantic relationship. And they're people who are so miserable. What is the famous saying, right? That misery loves company. And they're not going to give you advice on how to sustain your relationship, on how to get through the tough times, on how to work through the challenge and obstacle. They're going to tell you leave. They're going to they're going to tell you, to get out of there, because perhaps they don't want to be the only ones struggling through loneliness or singleness and all the rest, or their own battles with relationships and stuff. They don't want to be the only ones suffering through love and stuff like that. So they bring you down to it with it. You know what I'm saying? They give you the worst advice, the worst kind of answers, with no sense of actual critical thinking, with no sense of actual hope that you guys will thrive, will succeed, that your marriage will get through this. You know what I'm saying? There are people who just want you to join their side of things where it's not looking too good. So every time you go confide in them, they're just actually keeping tabs and score, and they're like, you know what? I think you should let that go. And that's how it'll be the love of your life. It'll be the partner that you're, meant to be in, but they're not giving you inspiring or encouraging words as to why you should be there. You could be pursuing entrepreneurship in a business, just because theirs didn't work out, their plans didn't work out. They're constantly just giving you reasons as to why this isn't the right move for you, that this is too big of a risk, that you're reaching too high, that you're desiring too much, that your ambitions are just like outrageous type of a situation, that you should just stay comfortable with where they are, because they're people that just feel uncomfortable to see you doing better than them. And that's the truth too, right? It's really unsettling that at some point we were once, here together, moving together, and now you're starting to move different. You're starting to talk different. You're starting to hang around people that are different from who you used to hang around with. You're starting to think differently. You know what I'm saying? And it's such an unsettling feeling because it feels like we're not in this together. So I'm going to keep trying to say things that will bring you back. Keep trying to say things that will pull you down. Keep trying to say things that will keep you stuck. They're constantly waiting for you to just come to them so that they can keep you lost in a place where you're not trying to be anymore. You'll be trying to grow and stuff, but then the energy of this person, the opinions of this person, the thoughts, the way that they advise you through things is not progressive, is not propelling you. In fact, it is inhibiting you from where you are trying to be. And I think that the more you speak, the more you just just saying stuff, right? The value of the things that you're trying to do begins to depreciate. The value of your dreams depreciates. The value and the worth of yourself and the respect for yourself depreciates, right? You've been telling people for so long, I'm going to do this, I'm going to venture out and start this thing, but you never get to it. And so now every time when you talk about it, people are just like, oh, like there she goes again, talking about how she's gonna go start this thing, do this thing, venture into that, like, oh, another one type of situation, because you've just been speaking about it so much with no action, right? You need to be able to trust that your progress, your results will speak louder for you than any word ever could. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you keep relying on your words to show people that you've got this, to show people that you mean it, to show people that you are who you think you are and say you are and all the rest. But results will always speak louder. Progress will always speak louder. You tell people, I want to go on a fitness journey or whatever. And then the comments will come in like, oh, but why would you want to do that? You look great already as you are. There's some people who don't want to see you healthy. Believe it or not, there's some people who don't want to see you feeling as confident as you could be, as you want to be, and all the rest. They'll be like, no, but why would you want to do that? You're fine the way you are. You're this and that. And then it'll just discourage you. And then you just start thinking, okay, I guess not, And that's what I mean, is like the value of this thing that you were seeking and looking out to do, right, begins to depreciate because of all these opinions and projections that you heard of like, okay, no, but I guess my body is fine. I guess I don't need to do much. Even though you know the way you feel with yourself, that you want to be healthier, that you want to be more active, you want to be more in motion type of situation. But because it kind of feels like, and it's like important to you, right? But because it kind of feels like you're not getting the support you thought you would, that you wanted, the value of this dream that you want, this goal that you had starts coming down and you just don't see. Even I think about when you're met with conflict, say for example with a friend or whatever it is, and it's constant in you just making a noise, pra, pa, 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 type of a situation, the value of what you're saying just comes down, right? Repeating yourself over and over and over. I don't like it when you do this. I don't like it when and they don't take you seriously. Sometimes your silence will speak louder, volumes type of a situation. Learning when to preserve your energy, when to protect your energy, take a step back and go, actually, I'm not going to be taken out of character because of the situation again. I'm not going to be out here making a noise all the time, just screaming to the heavens, thinking this person is now going to respect me. This person is now going to see me. This person is now going to affirm my boundaries, going to affirm what I deserve, right? Because that's what you're used to, constantly seeking affirmation and validation for the things that you say that you deserve. So you just keep speaking and speaking and speaking. But I think the more you learn to just, not have to keep fighting for that truth, I think the more it's being stated and shown, you know, I guess that example that they always give of like how we don't see adverts and stuff like that for like um a Ferrari or a Porsche, whatever it is on TV, it's because it speaks for itself. It doesn't need to be, advertised all the time in our face, type of a situation. Like the value of it, the way that it is, it's already, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's what happens. Like when you constantly feel the need to speak up, you constantly feel the need to repeat yourself, you constantly feel the need to be the loudest and all of that kind of stuff. What you're doing is saying that I don't you know I don't know if I'm if you're getting what I'm trying to say. Like what you're trying to say is like, see me, hear me, this, and it's like sometimes the most foolish one in the room that's the loudest, as they're saying goes type of a situation all the time. You just feel like you need to have something to say. There's not even value in the thing that you're saying. There's not even value in the thing that you're trying to provide. And like learning how to, just conserve that peace, that energy, that you know what I'm saying, and like speak when necessary, speak when you have something of value to provide, something positive to provide, something great to share. But don't just speak and share just because you can, And I think it's like what I'm saying is like sometimes we just open our mouth too soon to the wrong people at the wrong time. And that's why so many of our dreams don't come to fruition, don't come to actualization, is that it's being received by people who were not meant to journey on that vision in the first place, who were not meant to travel with you on this thought process that you had, on this plan that you wanted for yourself. On this dream that you wanted to actualize, you need to constantly keep looking at like your board of executives, the people that are around you that you feel safe enough, to share things with. Like I have that, just a handful of people where if there's something that I want for myself, I'll discuss with them. I'll take it into consideration. You always take what they say into consideration, It's never a final like, okay, this is what they said. It's more of a, I hear you, I respect you, but you don't need it. You know what you want. You know what you're setting out for. And I think that why we should choose silence more is that we're able to protect, the things that we're trying to reveal in our lives. We're able to have control, right? You need to have control over what you show people, over what you tell people, because the lack of that control, the loss of it is a lot more detrimental, and you'll find yourself losing a lot more than gaining. Oh man, you'll find yourself losing so many plans, relationships with people, ideas, motivation, things like that, because it's now dependent on what other people have to say about it. Other people start infiltrating it. Other people have, what it can become such a mess. It can take a life of its own also. We've seen those situations all the time on social media where you post a video, you think it's innocent, you're happy to share all the vibes, but the response it's getting, the feedback it's getting is not what you thought it would be at all. At all, because now it's taken a life of its own, and the rest of the world has decided what the conversation about this thing that you shared is going to be about. The conversation about this video is going to be about. The conversation about this post, it's not going to be what you thought it was going to be about. It's not going to be land the way you thought, and unfortunately that's just the reality of things, is because we did not protect it, we've lost control over it. And I think you need to learn to conceal your intentions sometimes. You don't need to let everything out in the beginning, lay all your cards out in the beginning too soon. Sometimes your thoughts haven't been thought out enough, haven't been fleshed out enough, you haven't finished processing what it is exactly that your intention is, what you want is. You have a thought, and you need to give yourself time to let it marinate, so that you can really develop this idea that you've got going on. You can really develop this routine you got going on that you want to embark on. So that by the time everybody, knows about it, they're still playing catch up. By the time, everybody else is aware of what's going on and what your mission is and what you're doing. Your foundation is so good that whatever they have to say, it's too late. It's too late because you've already been working on it for months, type of situation. You've already had a plan set out. It's already in motion. Don't speak about it when you're still putting the building blocks together, Only start exposing, once we've got motion, you have to have motion. You have to be moving, and if you're not moving it, if you're still stationary, there's no need, to have to consult with anybody and everybody about what you want to go on or what you want to take place, type of a situation. But it needs to be that once you start speaking to somebody about it, there's already a plan in place. There's already things, moving parts that are put together. And that's really my advice today is like, if you feel like you need to enter your quiet era for a bit, get into a space where you can focus for a bit, where you can zoom in, shut out the outside noise, shut out the outside opinions and stuff, and really just take hold of what's going on. Highly suggested. I know I'm a lot more focused when I drown out the noise. When I welcome every single sound, oh my days. But when I learn how to just protect this thing, but keep certain things sacred, control what it is that I want to reveal, conceal my intentions, all of that kind of stuff, I feel like I can better manage what's going on in my life. As always, I'm sending my love. Goodbye.
What in the 20s is going
In the
on
20s
here?
here.
The 20s,
What
baby.
plenty, plenty.
What in the 20s is
I
going
am
on?
here for my 20s, baby.
This is the 20s.